exciting. So welcome to the CEWL Beans podcast. We are so excited to have you all today. Well, this evening. So we have the awesome and amazing Dr. Marcella, and we also have Todd as well. So we are so excited to have you guys with my amazing co-host. So again, tonight we are going to be talking about collaborative learning communities. So I know as new teachers and induction teachers, as we're getting out of college and we're getting into, and the actual profession, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, starting off and, learning how to collaborate with other, educators and how to be a better educator. But even before we even start off, I just want to ask my co-host, how are you all doing tonight? Because I know it's almost the end of almost winter break, but it's also, close to Christmas. So before we start, I just want to ask how you guys are doing.
Well, I am doing really well. I'm looking forward to the winter break for sure.
Yes.
I'm doing great, doing really well. And I've got all my gifts already wrapped and everything's set to go for the holidays. I'm ready for a little bit of time off to relax and have a good time with my family.
Nice. Todd, you're way ahead of me. I still need to wrap my gifts. So I'm glad you're definitely ahead of that. So kind of starting off today, again, we're talking about collaborative learning communities. Again, as new educators, we have to learn how to collaborate with each other. Like even tonight, I'm collaborating with my amazing co-host. But I do want to start off with this question because a lot of, young educators are wondering, so how do you actually collaborate? We hear that key term over and over, like differentiation, but how do we actually collaborate with other professionals? So what do you guys have?
Yeah, I think that when you collaborate, you're basically providing like a supportive environment for yourself and your colleagues. And that's an environment where you want to share resources, you want to network, you want to share experiences, and just have someone that you could talk to regarding any challenges and even accomplishments that you have.
I would say, collaboration, really good collaboration requires a culture where you can be free to fail and you're able to take risks and you have an open mind to new ideas. Real collaboration is not just about like getting ideas from others. It's also giving those ideas. And so schools that to me build this open culture where it's like, hey, let's try this. That is the kind of collaborative community that I think really leads to innovation and really wonderful things. And the other thing I want to say about that is get outside of your school. Like the thing that helped me the most in my career, because I was the only one teaching what I was teaching at my school, which was broadcast journalism. So connecting and collaborating with teachers across the state and also seeing what people were doing across the country. So your collaboration doesn't have to just take place with the people in your hallway or in your building, but across the district, across the state, and really across the country and around the world. Look for those ideas that can help really transform your teaching.
Definitely, and I can agree with just talking to other educators, because I know with me, some of my best ideas are from social media. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. So for those who are on social media, just follow a lot of teacher Facebook groups. I know my first year, I just joined as many Facebook groups as I could. And even though I didn't never really ask any questions in the groups, a lot of people were asking the questions for me. And I received so many free resources just from teachers who were just willing to just share. So like one time I got a whole poetry unit because I was going to teach a poetry class, never taught poetry. And this lady was super sweet. Actually, 3 people gave me their whole unit plans and everything. And I was super thankful. So I think the main thing is just not being afraid to ask for help. And I like how you guys also said that you also have a lot to bring to the table. Mm-hmm. So even though I think that's the one thing I was afraid of as an induction teacher, a new teacher, I always felt like I had to, be quiet because I want to learn because I'm a person, I was raised, you always, if the adults are speaking, you're quiet, but I forget I'm an adult too as well. So I have a lot of things and a lot of teachers would say, Angelica, what do you have to say? So I love that about my school. So they're always open and saying, do you have anything to share? You have bright ideas. You're good at technology. And that really helped me a lot. But even if you feel like you can't say a lot of things, sometimes just talking to other educators, sometimes if you find at least that one buddy or that key buddy beside you, they can also help as well. So don't feel like you have to be afraid to share your ideas. And like what Todd said, even if you fail, that is completely okay. Even older teachers, they will say the many times they failed. So never be afraid to fail. And also the main thing, if you're stuck, like my grandma would say, don't sit there and die. So if you have a question, ask it. It may sound stupid because I know I asked a lot of crazy questions my first year, but they were really valid because I knew nothing about the school or the culture. So don't feel dumb if you have to ask. It may seem like a simple question, like, what is the schedule for the school? I didn't know certain things like that. But even when you're asking those small questions, it actually opens up communication. People are willing to share more things with you. So never be afraid to just step out your comfort zone or just walk out your door and ask another teacher, or even if it's a history teacher and you teach English. So talk to other subject areas as well.
Yeah,
So
I think
go
the
ahead.
key nuance to collaborative learning communities, the key thing is you're navigating those aspects together, especially in the induction space. And that leads to continuous professional development. So like you said, it's give and take because you are providing your voice and your experiences to the same situation, and you're getting feedback in return. So those are the nuances.
Definitely. So even though we're talking about collaboration, and of course you're getting these good ideas and you're also giving ideas, but we all know we're all human. I'm not going to always agree with every single person. Of course, they may not agree with you. So I think a thing I wish I knew as a new educator, I knew I would have conflicts with students, but what happens if you have conflicts with other teachers? Like you're trying to ask questions and maybe they shut you down. So what do you guys have, especially as, more matured educators? What advice could you give to maybe induction teachers about how do you handle those conflicts with other educators?
I think sometimes that happen a lot in PLCs, our professional learning communities, and sometimes where, people would disagree, like you said. But one key thing is to start off a PLC with what we call community agreements. So like we agree in this community, we are going to show empathy. We agree in this community that we are going to listen actively. We agree in this community that we are going to extend grace. So if you start off with community agreements, it's easy to sort of get back to it or to, have the team reflect on it when those conflicts do emerge.
Yeah,
I like
Marcella said exactly what I was going to say, which is developing these shared agreements and making those implicit values that you have explicit. I was at a school that does this, and they're written out and they're co-constructed as a team, and then you can always refer back to them when a conflict arises. And conflict is not something we necessarily want to avoid, because sometimes out of conflict we have the greatest opportunity for growth and change when there is a disagreement about how things should go or ideas on how to run a school or how we should move forward. It is working through those conflicts that really can, to me, if it's handled the right way through leadership and through those coming back and anchoring to those agreements, you actually can really grow as a staff. And I think sometimes, too many times, people want to avoid conflict, and so they back down or they just are afraid to start. You start to see people afraid to share their opinions. And really, if you're going to have a winning culture, you've got to be willing to not face away, but face towards those conflicts in a respectful way, and figure out how to solve problems together, because without that you really don't have collaboration, you don't have true teamwork.
Right. And the saying is, we agree to disagree.
Right.
We agree to disagree. Because, and one other thing, you have to understand that at some point you may not have closure. So one key agreement, community agreement is, sometimes expect non-closure, because it may not be closure for you. You will agree to disagree. You have your opinion, I have mine. We respect each other, but just being respectful at all times.
And I think another one that I heard a school leader say before is always assume positive intent. So when you're having a conflict, if you think that's like it's personal or this person doesn't really like me, just assume in all situations people have a positive intention to do the right thing in their classrooms, in their schools. And when you do that, you really can develop this more compassionate atmosphere where the conflicts don't have to lead to hard feelings or people being upset or people shutting off, because that's what happens is you have this, and I've seen this happen on so many different types of teams, is people just start to shut off and then start working in silos instead. And then that just completely dismantles any hope for collaboration. So it's critical that you lean into the areas where there is conflict to figure out where, how do we move forward. And like Marcella said, and sometimes it's just going to be like, well, we have to just agree that we're not going to agree, and then let's move on to the next thing.
Definitely. You guys gave some great advice. So Marcella, you're talking about like starting off with those agreements at the very beginning. So maybe at the beginning of the year, or even if you guys never even started any agreements with your group, maybe you can start the next time you guys have a meeting. So there's never, it's never too late to start those agreements. You don't have to wait till the beginning of the year. And Todd, also liked how you said that in order, to have collaboration, there has to be conflict as well. And conflict doesn't always have to be a bad thing. You just may not agree. And of course, Marcella, you said sometimes, there may be no closure. And I think that's the thing that really bothers me. I have to have closure with certain things. But again, we're all different people. We all come from different backgrounds. We all came from different educational programs. So everyone's going to have different ideas and different opinions. And it's okay to sometimes to agree to disagree and to kind of assume, like what you said, Todd, again, assuming that people have the positive intent behind it. Because again, we're all educators. We're all doing this. We're all collaborating for us not only to be better educators, but we're doing it for our students. And I think that's the main thing we have to remember with our collaborative communities, that at the end of the day, even though we're trying to learn from each other, but we're doing all of this for the intent of assisting and being better teachers for our students. And that we're all in this together. So even though, because sometimes I even understand too, when there may be a conflict, that you never know what's happening in people's homes. So maybe that person is lashing out that day because they had a conflict with their husband earlier. And then, so you don't know what people are actually going through. So it's always good to always have compassion, because again, we're bringing other things, like we talk about students, they're bringing things to the school, but sometimes I have to remember teachers as well. We're also bringing things into the classroom as well. So making sure we're understanding of other people. So if they're lashing out this day, maybe they just needed that moment, because we're all, I know I'm definitely not perfect. But I also learned too, with maybe if you're disagreeing with someone, that don't react in the heat of the moment. So people are always assuming, like, when I'm quiet, that I'm just, I'm shutting down. No, I'm just taking the time to calm down, just to really listen to hear what the other person is saying. So never really react in the moment, because you may regret what you say or may do. So always, calm down. And I know Todd from the not podcast, but the chat we had earlier, for those who were in scene. So if you were able to see Todd early, he did an awesome job talking about mindfulness and teaching us about the breathing and with the fingers. So I'm learning that with the fingers. I'm going to use that definitely. Probably when maybe tomorrow, you never know, maybe tomorrow, but maybe need to breathe or just take a moment. But again, for us to really collaborate, we need sometimes that conflict as well, because it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. So thank you guys for that. And then another question as well. So what have you guys have seen that has either been a strength in a PLC or professional learning community, or it actually weakens a professional learning community? So it can be either or both of them. So what strengthens or what can also weaken a professional learning community or PLC?
I think one thing that I've seen is the professional support and mentoring that often takes place in PLCs, because you have induction teachers who are just, learning who they are, learning their students, learning their families, learning their school. And at any given point in time, professional learning communities give them that guidance, that support, and even, the confidence to sort of continue to move forward and make a difference and try to do the right things for their students and their families. So one is professional support and mentoring, for sure.
This is a message to school leaders. Talk to your staff about what kind of PLCs they want, instead of constantly just telling them what it's going to be. Because this is one of the issues we have in education, is everything's so top down. We should be, as educators, listening to our students and what they need, and then taking what then that informs kind of what we need to learn. And then we should be taking that to administration and say, listen, I need to learn more about this because that's what my students need. And it should be so the process of what a PLC should be in a school should be informed by the students and the teachers. And too many times what I see happening is it's just like, well, the district is doing this program or whatever, and everybody's got to go through it and everybody's got to be trained on it. And that one size fits all approach to professional learning is absolutely insane. And I understand why districts are doing it, but really teachers need to get together. And that's why I think being a member of the SCEA is so important. Get together and come together and talk to your administration and say, listen, I know that you need to do this, but can we have some ownership over what PLCs look like and what we're learning, because, or at least some choice? Like maybe what you want to do is one option, but can we create some other choices that come from us? Because we know what we need on the front lines with these students. And too many times I just see teachers checked out because they see no relevancy and they see no importance to the PLC that they're attending. And then there's just this resistance to it. It just becomes a bad word, like, oh crap, I got to go do that thing, instead of being excited to go learn about something that's going to make you better at your craft.
Yeah, well, the key word I was listening for, Todd, when you were sharing earlier is choice. I wholeheartedly believe in choice. But one glimmer of hope that I'm seeing, at least in my work with school districts across the state this year, is that they are providing choice. And I hadn't seen that before. And so I think that a lot of districts are sort of moving and towards that and recognizing that that is exactly what their teachers want and deserve, quite frankly.
Definitely, because PLC says professional learning community. So we are professionals, so we know our craft. So we don't need things coming from the head down telling us we have to do this, because we know what we need with our students. We know the standards, we know what's going on. And so we can learn from each other rather than it just being dictated to us. And it almost feels like, how teachers keep saying, like, I don't want to go to this PD. It feels like, more work. But I like how you guys said, like, PLC should be something we look forward to. So the best PLC I've ever seen was when I was student teaching. So I assumed all PLCs were like that. So I'm glad that you guys said that every PLC is like a, cookie cutter. Is not the same thing, or at every school, every community is different. But what worked well with that school, so all the English, I don't know, they're all English 1, whether you're honors or CP, they all met with each other like once a week, but they're also in the same hall. So really all the teachers could just talk to each other anytime. So it was like an English department hall. So all the students could just go in that hall. But once a week or even twice a week, they would just meet up with each other, plan the whole lessons, but they all basically agree they could change things they wanted to in their class, but basically had everything planned. They didn't have to outline, because what worked with them, they really trusted each other. They were actually probably like good friends with each other as well. So they were able to build that, we talk about classroom community, but they actually had that department trust with each other, that they could literally plan out everything. And of course, someone had a different idea. They were able to talk it out, and they really trusted each other. And that was the best PLC I've ever saw. So I kind of assume like going to different places would be the same thing, but it's completely different. But every school is different, and every school knows their own culture and how that's going to work. So every school is a little bit different, but I think the main thing was a lot of trust that really helped with that community. And they talked a lot with each other, so they were able to learn about each other, and they were good friends with each other eventually too. Even new teachers who were student teachers, we like instantly fell in love with the group, and it felt like, and they also asked for our input as well. So they never shut us out. So they're always welcoming other people's input. So I thought that was a very good PLC when I was student teaching.
Yeah, when you talk about culture, and I think, one of the things I've seen in really good like staff meetings or PLCs is time not just to talk about the logistics of school or the curriculum or the whatever new program you're implementing, but to get to know each other. Like there needs to be an investment at some point where we get to know the other human beings as human beings in our building. Who are we working with? What's going on in their lives? We should be talking about the successes and the stresses and the things like that they're going through, and build a supportive culture, because I really feel like that, more than learning some kind of new strategy. We'll do more to create the kind of positive classroom culture and climate that we want in our schools than some type of new program or new strategy. I think all those strategies and methodologies, all of that's great and it's important. But what's the most important thing, if you look at the show like Ted Lasso and you're trying to build the success of a team, the most important thing is the feeling that I'm valued for who I am as a person, not just as my role, just not just my role as a teacher, but who I am and I get to know who you are. And together we can, then you get in go back into conflict things. When we know each other and we trust each other, then we can work through those conflicts a lot better. But when we're alienated from each other and ourselves and we feel alienated at school, nobody really knows who I am or what I'm about, those conflicts are much harder to get through.
Right. And it's ironic that you say that get to know the other human being, because earlier today I was filling out a survey for NEA, and it was around sort of forming communities of practice, across state affiliates. And one question they asked, I thought that was very telling and pertinent, was, what are some examples of like check-in questions that we could ask each other? For example, what are like physical check-in questions? Like, how have you taken care of your physical needs today? Not only physical, but mental check-in questions. And I thought that was really important because it's something that we often fail to do. So.
Absolutely.
Definitely checking in on each other, because again, we are supposed to be like working together. So we have to know them as well, not just know them, not our coworkers, and sometimes schools call each other families. So if we're really a family, we should really care about each other, and more than just, you're just an English 2 teacher, you're the history teacher, but we're actually a family where we are a community, and we're not just here just only for our students, but also for each other. And that helps build that community. And if we as teachers build that community, the students will see that, and then that builds a whole school-wide community. So if students are seeing teachers having conflict with each other, they can already sense that, and and that can also mess up the whole school community. So it's very important. And again, you don't have to like everybody, but you should still respect everybody and care about each other, because again, we're all human beings, we're all going through something, but we should all care about each other, at least to a certain point. So care about each other, definitely. And I know, Marcella, you said you had the top 10 reasons of why collaborative learning communities are essential, and I think we really need to know that.
Yes. Okay. So I want the two of you, to let me know if you co-sign with these top 10 reasons. Okay. All right.
All right.
So one is professional support and mentoring. That's something we talked about. Okay. Do the two of you agree? Okay. All right.
Yes.
Shared resources and lesson plans. I know, Angelica, you talked about getting that poetry lesson or that poetry unit earlier. Peer learning and reflection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Professional development opportunities, but those that bring about choice.
We definitely talked about that earlier too.
Okay. All right. Emotional support and well-being.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. What about access to diverse perspectives?
Oh, I like that.
Okay. Innovative teaching strategies and methodologies.
Definitely.
Okay. Effective classroom management techniques.
I need that. Yes.
Okay. Which is also a number one reason why, or a number one subject that a lot of induction teachers say they need assistance and support with. Okay. Increased confidence and job satisfaction.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then number 10, long-term professional connections.
Definitely.
Like your professional connections with the SCEA.
That's right.
Definitely.
So those are the top 10. Yeah.
Those were good, Marcella.
No, that's great.
Okay.
Definitely. And I think even while we were talking, we almost hit basically all of those just in our conversations with each other. But I'm glad how you were able to just put it in a list, so we can kind of, check off those boxes. And we both definitely co-sign on all of that. So
yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So thank you, Marcella.
That means that the two of you are geniuses.
Of course. And we are technically in our own PLC right now. Even though it's a podcast, we're in our own PLC right now.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. geared
Well,
towards induction teachers.
oh, yes, definitely. So, guys, as we're kind of gearing up to the end of our podcast, I know we do have a few announcements, some cool things that are happening here in the SCEA, and of course with Cool as well. So, Marcel, what are some updates that we have?
Okay, so let's start first with Cool Coaching actually happening right now. So every Tuesday and Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m., we have two additional phenomenal coaches, Angie Brush and Stephanie Johnson. They are live every Tuesday and Thursday, and we are looking for any induction teacher who simply needs our help. It could be with lesson planning. It could be with finding resources that you need. It could be help with planning a unit of study. It could be with finding additional resources, actually helping you deal with conflict. It could be if you want to test out a lesson on us, we will sit there and listen to it and give you feedback. So every Tuesday and Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m., we are available for induction teachers. Any induction teacher across the state who need our assistance or would like our assistance, please log on. It's via Zoom, it's confidential, and we are so willing to help you.
That's a great opportunity. I mean, the fact that that's free, I mean, I hope that people will take advantage of that. Three amazing educators giving free one-on-one advice is awesome. Thank you for doing that, Marcella.
Yes.
I wanted to mention, and the graphic doesn't completely fit, so you kind of see half of my face. But this just came out. We're pleased to announce that the South Carolina Supreme Court has accepted our petition. So our voucher lawsuit in conjunction with the NAACP is moving forward, and we're really excited about that. That was announced today, and I'm going to, in the comments, so if you're following along on Facebook, I'm going to put a direct link to further details about that. But I want folks to notice who it is that's leading the way to fight back against these private school vouchers, which really are designed to undermine and gut our public schools. Our public tax dollars should be going towards public schools, not to give folks a gift certificate to send their kids to private schools. And what we've seen when that happens in other states is it tends to favor wealthy families who are already sending their kids to private schools. The vast majority of people who utilize those funds are already sending their kids to private schools. And then what happens is the private schools will raise their tuition rates because, you know, people are getting that free coupon. So now they can raise the rates and a whole host of other reasons why these vouchers are discriminatory and really something that the public of South Carolina shouldn't stand for. So we're proudly standing to fight against those and hope that folks will stand with us, and they can do that by joining the SCEA. We'd love to have you in the movement to protect our public schools.
Definitely. So, of course, guys, make sure you're hitting all the links and knowing that the SCEA is here for you, whether you're an induction teacher or an older teacher or just joining the profession or even thinking about profession. Know that the SCEA has your back. So, again, we thank you all for joining our Cool Beans podcast. We hope that you learned some things just from the podcast. And, of course, don't forget to follow us on different social media accounts, and also going onto the Cool Beans website to see our previous podcasts. But thanks again to Todd and Marcella for, of course, always being there with me on the podcast. So, of course, we hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good one.